Cool. So this is one way to do it. I like to even continue to simplify and write less. Programmers like to write as least as possible. So there's another shortcut that we can do here. First, we can kind of echo the string from here. Let me just show you first what's going to happen. But it's already being echoed inside a start block. So I'm going to go back to block construct, and instead of echoing it, here's a new thing for functions. We can return the string instead. We don't actually commence anything on it. We don't echo it. We return it. So that's this function that was called a second ago will basically replace itself with this code. This function here will replace itself with that set of code, and then it'll echo based on this command. In this way, we can actually make the function do some stuff to that content and then return it when it's done. So that actually helps us in organizing and creating a more powerful process. So that's going to be no problem, and I can go ahead and refresh. And then I continue to simplify. So there it is, it's working nice, but I can even go further. PHP has an even much quicker way to do this. If we just do less than sign question mark equals, this is the same thing as if we did echo, and I will prove to you by refreshing. So this is still echoing in a shortcut manner, and I'll go ahead and do this. But notice that since I haven't changed my end block to actually return, watch what's going to happen. Okay, never mind, it's still gonna work. So sometimes you find some things that you don't expect to work, but they do work. I guess sometimes computers can adapt. But what we really wanna do is still return this consistently and keep it a return instead of an echo. We don't wanna double take on the echo. It's like echoing an echo. Could cause some problems in the future. This way we minimize the amount of code we have to actually plug in, and we expand the flexibility. Perfect. So now we're going into the inside of the block. So while the outside is always the same for every single block, the inside is going to be really different based on what you're going to use it. For instance, this title is not always going to be user profile. However, we can customize functions to actually have inputs. So let's look at it before I remove it, and I'll follow the same pattern. We'll call this block title. And what I want to essentially do is print this code out, but I want to change this based on what I put inside. So I'm just going to grab this real quick, throw the string there, grab that, and even the HR. Since it doesn't exist, we have to make sure we don't go to refresh yet. We'll go to block functions, because now we're processing the actual function itself, the details of that content. So we start the typical way of creating a function, block title, and then in PHP, the way we do variables, we always start with a $sign and then the name of our variable, and it can be arbitrary. In this case, I'm literally just going to call it name, since it is the name or the title. Actually, let's just go ahead and call it title. The problem with this $sign, and you should really put a note on this, when we get into JavaScript, JavaScript does not use that. So it's very, very important to be dynamic, and the more you use one and the other simultaneously, the less mistakes you'll make. But be patient with yourself. You are going to be basically going back and forth between 3 languages, maybe even 4 if we get to MySQL. But it'll give you a good dynamics of how websites work in such a dynamic way by literally having 3 languages plus 4 plus 5 plus really expandable, however many languages you want to work simultaneously, and they communicate with each other. In this case, PHP and HTML are very native, and they work with each other very naturally. So we're going to return that set. In fact, let's start using our HTML, our other notation that we found out about. And do notice that it does break. You want to make sure that both words are goldish yellow, or the same color. Your design or your theme may be different in your editor. So you just basically want to make sure that this is the same color as this, and that the second HTML is all the way to the left, hugging that wall. That's a requirement. As soon as I move it away from the wall, it breaks, and now it doesn't know what's happening. Notice that the color changed as well. So keep it at the wall. That's the only thing I don't like about it. It makes my code even uglier, so that's kind of why I want to tuck it back. Alright, so in here we want that title and the HR. So perfect, it's keeping our connotation. Well, we do want the title to be printed, but we want it to be printed based on what our title is in our input. So this is why we are using this weird way to put things in strings, is because now I can just naturally use the $sign and continue on programming without any harm. So, recap. We are creating a function to print only the title. The title is being plugged in by the other side of where this is being called, and then it's used in this location between the title tags as per the template. Watch what happens. Boom. So what happens when I change my title? Awesome. So now we actually have a very minusculely automated process to create multiple blocks with different titles, which is good because we're going to have plenty. Next, we will observe this as specifically a profile block. So I'm just going to grab this. Yep. Profile picture. And of course, when we automate this, we're going to use different profile pictures for different users. So we'll keep that in mind. But for now, we're going to make it quick and simple. We're still going to keep it in the functions because with time, we do want this ability to expand. So in this case, profile picture. And it will return HTML. Ooh, I even have to keep the spacing around it. Yeah, so be very careful. Look, as soon as I leave, that notation ruins itself. Ooh, okay, perfect, great. Get back here. And looks organized enough. So now from here, eventually, you can guess that this is where the image is being pulled from, so we'll make this a variable for the variable location of that profile picture, which will vary based on the user signed in. So that's how we can dynamically change this. But for now, we can even change this, but it's too much time for silly things. We're just going to finish this block and call it a day for this particular set of details. So, you know, in retrospect, we can just call this profile since all of this stuff is profile related, including the name. So let's just call this profile block profile block. See, all this is arbitrary, so you know, pick whatever works for you the best. But once I change this, I have to make sure. Oh, yeah, okay, I didn't erase anything extra. I have to change this. I thought I copied something new without using my paste. Sometimes that happens. And then we'll just go ahead and throw this stuff in there as well, because honestly, that's still profile stuff. And I'm going to throw this down here. And then we can put the person's name, the location, all inside of our attributes area, parameters here, and then we'll just import them each time. For this, I wanted to kind of separate this from the others because really it's its own functionality. We have it as a ability to list options in this case, and like profile, settings, messages, or account information. But it's useful. We can actually use the structure for many things. Now call this menu. So menu. I don't want to call it block. It's not a block, so I'm just going to call it menu. And I'm just going to call it probably profile. Yeah. So naming conventions, the simpler you can get, the better. I forgot what I was going to name it, so let me just do this real quick. Oh, menu. Okay. Return. Silly HTML notation. You have to start in the new line. and then go all the way to the end and then retype in the exact same text that it began with. Perfect. So it's going to return that set. And let me change this to just block. And of course make the changes in the functions as well, because it is calling from here. Block profile, yeah, block title is fine because a lot of blocks are going to have titles. This is just profile because I'm not going to have many blocks for profiles. Just need one profile. Okay. So now we've fully automated it. Look how we've simplified the block in itself. It's only 5 lines, and then further we're able to go inside of this code in the future and make it a lot more flexible and linking them to the correct locations. So basically this is the process to take to make the whole page dynamic. The nav bar will work in the same exact way as well. You can take the nav bar apart into pieces. If you have one nav bar, just keep it, don't have to do this function process. The function process is here because I'm going to have many blocks, many reproducible blocks, and I want them in functions because I want more control over what those blocks do. Automatic control is the keyword. With the nav bar, I'm going to have more control in this file, and once I set it up, it's going to be the same nav bar for every single page, no matter how many pages I have, with one set of code, instead of what you saw before is 5 different files. So that's going to be it for this and future sessions. We're going to go next into more details. We're going to go into the actual design, the CSS and the JavaScript, but follow these processes. It is in the air. The more practice you have with this and the more you think about how you want to organize your blocks, the simpler it will become. Always think in small pieces. Every single device, tool, or idea has smaller pieces inside. Don't be stuck on the book of the cover. Open it up and take a look at the smaller pieces to actually be able to find a nice organized pattern. So we'll see you in the next video with the more designy aspect of this series.